Welcome, Sky.
Hey, good morning, Mike. It's good to be here.
To welcome Sky Streety to our Lakeway studio, our new Lakeway studios.
Beautiful.
This morning, and have an opportunity to sit down and chat about Sky Streety and his coaching business, and get to know you a little bit better. So I have some questions for you this morning. So Sky, interesting name with Sky. I think I've asked you about this before. So where did Sky come from? I mean, your parents a hippie, or
Yes.
how did they come up with Sky as your first name?
Well, first of all, my name is Sky with just the Y on the end, the original. No E or anything like that, and it's not short for Skylar. But my parents weren't hippies. I do get asked that all the time, even though I was born in the 60s. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have told you that. However, I'm actually named after a pilot from a radio and television show called Sky King, and my parents loved that show, and it was very popular at the time that I was born, and hence my name is Sky.
Okay.
I didn't like it at first, Mike. I got to tell you, growing up, I was like, because everybody said Scott, but as the years have gone by, I actually am very grateful my parents named me Sky.
Yeah, I love the name. I think
Thank you.
it's fantastic. It's definitely memorable.
Yes.
So that's terrific.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about how you became a success coach.
Thank you for asking. So interestingly enough, in 2010, one of my best friends, he was actually the best man at my wedding, Michael Warden, who is a coach. He's been coaching for quite some time and an author as well. He suggested that I look into coaching. I was president of a company at the time. He said, Sky, I think you'd be a great coach. And honestly, Mike, I just laughed. I thought, what? I don't know the first thing about that. But a few years later, I saw an opportunity to step into coaching and help grow leaders. And it resonated with me at that time, and that kind of was the catalyst for me moving towards that.
Wow, okay, that's fantastic. So to be a success coach, I mean, is there a formal type of training that you would go through to become a success coach? Or tell us a little bit about what would be involved, or what you had to go through in order to learn, how to be effective as a coach.
Thank you for asking. I think I get asked that quite a bit. Interestingly, there are all kinds of coaches out there, and I didn't want to just fall into, life coach, business coach, etc. So I thought a lot about what do I want to bring to the business community, and what would I want if I were being coached, and I thought, I want success. And so I chose that title for what I do. And success is different for different people. And I was excited when I began to go down this journey to find out that John Maxwell, who I had read about many times, and I actually first seen him in 2002 in San Diego, California. I just fell in love with him. And I discovered that he had a program and a team that I'm a member of. And part of that involved coaching. It also had training and other things and tools that I could use, and I do use to help when I do workshops, but very often when I'm coaching marketplace leaders. And so I became a member of the John Maxwell team and got certified in that in 2013.
So you mentioned John Maxwell.
Yeah.
Great author. I've had an opportunity to read his books as well.
Yes.
So how is it that you chose John to be your mentor?
Again, I'll tell you, when I saw John, as I mentioned a moment ago in 2002, it struck me how effective he was at communicating and the way with which he leads others. And so as I began to read his books and study more about the program, I recognized that in order to step into that space with which I had no background, I had only led companies, I was a nobody. And so I thought, hey, John Maxwell is a somebody. By the time I became a member of the team, he had authored at least 78 books, I think, around there.
Wow.
And wildly popular. And his name is well known in the arena around leadership. And I thought, okay, when people are wanting to connect with me, I can say I'm a member of the John Maxwell team, and that'll mean something. Whereas while people think my name is unique, my name meant little. Probably still doesn't mean a whole lot yet.
Well, I think you have, from everybody that I talk to, you have a great reputation, and,
Thank you.
and definitely you offer some valuable skills and services, I know, to your clientele. Tell us a little bit about how long you've actually been a coach, for leadership training?
Well, so I got certified through the John Maxwell team in 2013, and I got my first assignment in the summer of 2014, and I was super excited. One of the owners of a company in Kalispell, Montana, of all places, reached out to me and asked me to begin coaching him. So I coached him during the summer, and then that fall, I got to go up to Kalispell, Montana, which is at the gateway to Glacier National Park. And I got to spend 3 months there working with their team. So I got to do some training and coaching for 3 months on site. And that was my kickoff. What a kickoff for the opportunity to serve others.
Wow, that is terrific. What do you enjoy most about being a coach? What really gives you the satisfaction and the pleasure of working with others as a coach?
I'll say that the thing that I get to experience with every single client that I've worked with and work with is transformation. Everybody is uniquely different. And success means different things to every person. I have never heard a single one of my clients tell me that what success meant to them was the same as what it meant to the other person. They're all different. And being a part of or having a front row seat to the transformation from where they are to where they're going is exhilarating.
Yeah, I bet that is extremely satisfying.
Yes, I love
to
it.
really see the results take shape,
Yeah.
with your clients.
Even sometimes I see people, Mike, that when I first started working with them, sometimes their attitude or what they thought we needed to work on wasn't really what it was at all. And so seeing them transform as individuals and serving others and changing even the way they view life is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, because I think, when, and I would imagine that within the coaching program that, of course, that you offer, it's not just about what happens to them in business, but it's really it's more than that. I mean, you
Yes.
talked about it's personal, it's, what you're doing in the time that you're not necessarily working on your business or in leadership. It's that balance that I
Yes.
imagine that you are working with your clients on. And so, Sky, what do you think are some of the most common things that leaders seek you out as a coach? Or what are the most common things?
Well, you just mentioned it a moment ago. It's typically balance. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of competition out there, right? And people are always looking for an edge. And sometimes what happens is that they spend so much time working, they don't spend enough time letting themselves get recharged, being able to think, being able to plan, and being able to be strategic because they're so busy going and going and going. And what times happens is that there's a intersection that happens every day for every person when they're out in business. The intersection is the intersection of their business and their life. And so when one of those is out of kilter, and oftentimes I find when I meet with people, it's actually the life part that's out of kilter, not necessarily that they don't have a great business plan or strategy, it affects the business. And they don't realize that that's what's holding them back. So I work with them diligently to try to get in that balance, and that way they can continue to grow as a leader and grow their business.
Sky, how does one go about engaging you as a coach? If they're interested in working with you, I mean, how would they actually engage you, your services?
I've had a great number of people approach me because they were referred to me, which I love that. And oftentimes they'll come to me and they think they already know what they want to talk about around coaching. And they want to get started. And I always say the same thing and I follow the same procedure. I don't skip steps. So I sit down with them and I have a catalyst session with them. It's a way for me to get to know who they are, them to get to know me and find out, hey, are you the right coach for me? And for me to ask, are you the right person for me to coach? And so I'll spend about 60 to 75 minutes asking them some questions that allow me to connect more deeply with them and discover kind of where they are. Actually, it turns out to be a time where they might actually discover some things about themselves that they didn't know and creates a space for us to determine, can we work together?
And I imagine that during that process, there's a bit of rapport building.
Yes.
And and you're really getting to know that individual, and I think, which allows, I would imagine, your clients to open up more about, some of the things that may be difficult for them to acknowledge at first.
Oh, yes. I believe that in order for me to have a successful relationship with somebody as their coach is I have to create a space like where they feel safe, where they can be transparent, they can be vulnerable, and we can dig down on some things that are blind spots or limiting beliefs that actually have held them back or are holding them back. And I love going there with people and helping them find out, hey, wow, I had some transformation here the first time we sat together. What would that look like for us to continue working together? And we create a basis for that to be possible.
Sky, how long does a typical engagement last with a client? So you take on a new client and you're working with them. How long typically would that engagement would expect to last?
I'll tell you, I've experimented with different lengths of time working with people. And in order for somebody to really experience growth and success with my formula and my methodology, it really needs to be at least a year. I typically work with people twice a month, generally, some platforms a little bit more, but it takes time for us to establish a relationship where we can get really deep into things and they can trust the method. And so I'll tell you that generally speaking, once I've worked with people a year, we continue to work together because they recognize that having me on their team helps them to continue to be successful and to flourish. I'm currently in my third season with 2 clients presently. The longest I've ever coached with somebody is 2.5 years so far. That was a very successful lawyer in Denver, Colorado. And I coach people all over the United States, and I love the ability to be able to do that.
So what would be, some that you mentioned, you've got a couple clients that you've had some longer term coaching relationships with. What strikes you as kind of the biggest transformation that you've seen as an example on a client?
That's a really great and important question. A lot of times when I work with people, they're hoping that I'm going to help them with some kind of a financial success. And that is important. I want to be able to deliver that and bring that. But a lot of times, what I see to be the biggest thing is the overall health of them as a leader. Like I've said, I've had some clients who actually struggled in the past with being able to keep employees. And the reason they weren't able to keep employees is because, believe it or not, it wasn't their employees, Mike, it was them. And it took some time for them to recognize, oh my goodness, the person who needs to change is me. Another exciting thing that happened a few years ago, I was working with the partner of a local firm here in Austin, a very large national accounting firm. And this was a really cool thing that happened. He had about 40 people on his team, and I worked with him as well as his executive team. And most of them were pretty young. And one of those young men that was on his team who had a degree in accounting, and he was exceptional, and that was what he was hired for. But we discovered that he was not excelling. And so the partner said, hey, what do you think that is, Sky? What do you think's going on? I was like, he's a fine person. Maybe we need to look at, do you have him in the right seat within your company? So we did something daring, Mike. We did the strengths and weaknesses profile that I do with everyone, and I had them participate that. And when we looked at that, we discovered that even though his credentials said, yes, you're a fantastic accountant, your skill set is actually in sales. That was surprising. So, Mike, we made the daring move, and I just encouraged it. I didn't have anything to do with it. They moved him to a completely other position within the company. And in the very first month after they moved him over there, Mike, his attitude and his contributions soared. And in that very first month, this company, again, is a national company. They have an inside, like an intranet, but it's a publication they put out. And in that first month, this young man was written up and was the top performer in the entire company. Wow. That is exciting.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yes,
yeah.
It was very exciting.
Yeah, well, it goes to show you sometimes, people just don't realize, hey, maybe I'm not enjoying what I'm doing because I'm doing the wrong thing.
That's right.
And I think part of of working with you, I would imagine, is just really understanding someone's strengths and weaknesses, you know, and really what do they enjoy doing, where do they excel, and I think that you bring that out certainly as part of that coaching process, so that people can say, hey, how do I get satisfaction from what I do on a daily basis, and where am I going to be most effective and enjoy, and I think that's part, I believe, of what you deliver, you know, with your clients is, you know, it's just, again, really helping them focus and understanding, you know, on where, you know, really where they're going to be most effective. You've shared a success story with us. Is there anything else, any other clients that come to mind that you would like to highlight, you know, as a successful engagement?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say one more thing about what you just asked me. You know, it's expensive to have employees, and retention is important. And so when you can recognize that the value that an employee brings goes beyond just them showing up, but really being able to take the time to discover their strengths and who they are and allow them to soar rather than throwing them to the curb, having to go through all the iterations to find somebody else, and the loss of time, and then that ends up oftentimes piling on you as the leader, right? Because you've got to take on their work and some of your other staff, and so that's a winning thing when you can do that. I'll share with you a client that I've been working with. This is now my third season. He's a realtor, and in his first year after working with me, during that first year, his business had doubled. He was a multi-million-dollar realtor producer. And one of the great things about that was that while his business doubled, and in fact going into last year, he then already near the end of the year, he already had 6 months worth of business already racked up prior going into the next year. One of the great things that he was struggling with, though, was the balance. And so while we enjoyed seeing his business double, we also saw the balance that he needed where he was getting to enjoy that so much more. And then one other one, another client. This is my third season to work with them. I coach 5 members of their team, the CEO, the COO, the CTO, and then some other executive team members. When I started working with them, they had not had one profitable year, and they'd been a company for quite some time. Literally no month had they had profitability. After about 9 months, they enjoyed their first month of profitability, and it was pretty good. Then approximately 1 year later, Mike, they sold their company to a private equity firm for 13 times revenue, and their revenue was in excess of $2 million. And many of their partners got paid well. And the beautiful thing about that is when that PE firm took them over, I didn't lose getting to work with them. I still get to work with those executives even though they've been in a transition, and it's wonderful.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. I mean, so what does the future hold for Sky Streety? I mean, where do you see your coaching practice go? Obviously, you've had some great success stories with the people that you've been fortunate enough to work with you. But you know, where do you see yourself going over the next few years?
I love that question. I do hope in the next year I'll have the opportunity to go out and do some more speaking engagements. I used to get to go do those with EO groups, entrepreneurial organizations, and getting to work with more entrepreneurs on a local level. I do also hope that I can create a platform. You're actually hopefully going to be able to help me with some of that a little bit, where I can reach more people. As you know, coaching, most of mine is one-to-one, and I have a limited amount of time, and I want to be able to pour deeply into the ones that I'm working with, but I want to be able to extend my reach and allow others to be able to take part in some of the things that I've created and reach them as well. So I hope in the next year that will be a part of what happens for my coaching practice.
Wow, that sounds great. Any final thoughts, Sky, on really, we're here in 2021. We've all been through a challenging year, I think, out there, and
yes,
and I imagine, you know, working with your clients, a lot of them really looking for your guidance. You know, I'm sure it's been very important to get through this past year and looking forward to, you know, what's next.
I will tell you this. Mike, as a coach, it's important for me to also get coached. I have a group that I'm a part of. And because you cannot give what you do not have. And so for myself and for others that are listening to this and or my encouragement for you is make time for yourself to let your thinking catch up with you. Find some time each day to do that. I do that first thing in the morning, where I pull out my journal, write what I'm grateful for. I have some time thinking about the day, and try to create some pit stops during the day to let your thinking catch up with you. I know I struggle with that myself, and I have them. I'm so bad at it, quite frankly. I have pit stops lined up in my phone that remind me, hey, take a time out, coach, and pour into yourself, and do some reading so that I can continue to learn, because I want to be able to learn from others, including John Maxwell, things that I can give to my clients that I presently am not able to outside of working on myself.
All right, terrific.
I love being here, Mike. Your
Well,
studio is
Sky.
awesome.
Thank you, Sky. I really
You're a great
appreciate
host.
you coming in, and I love working with you.
Thank you.
You
Likewise.
really have just such a positive outlook. You know, I know just in the time that we've had together here, in our relationship over the past year, I've learned so much.
Thank you.
I think from you, and as an example of really how to achieve that balance. And so thank you for that. And
Appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. And
Great working with you. Thank you, Mike.
thanks.